Support for Lab Out Loud is brought to you by the National Science Teachers Association. Find out more at nsta.org. Welcome to the Lab Out Loud podcast, science for the classroom and beyond. And today we're talking about what happens when science professionals make a connection to the classroom.
So the request from the teacher was, the kids are working on this project, we would love to connect with the chemist. So we were able to make that connection with the PhD student who was in her lab, and she was able to talk through all the different topics that they were interested in, and in making soap and what kind of experiments she does. And she actually performed a live experiment in that classroom.
That's up next on Lab Out Loud, but first, I'm your co-host Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartel.
And before we get into our interview with our guest today, we got a great guest coming up. I want to mention to the listeners to remind them that NSTA has a national conference coming up. It's going to be in Atlanta, and it is from March 15th to the 18th. So there is still time to sign up and join us at that conference. Brian and I are going to actually be there.
That's right. And, well, as I'm looking out my window right now, it's snowing, it's been cold, and I'm looking forward to a nice spring getaway. Now, that's not the only reason we go, of course. It's nice to see, of course, what a national conference brings in terms of ideas and the energy of science teachers around the nation and beyond. But it's also a neat time to get together with science teachers just on spontaneous, like water cooler conversations and
Oh yeah, absolutely. I get so much value out of just the people I bump into sometimes after a session or before a session. Some of those things that you just can't reproduce in a program. Those are the connections that really hit home. So I recommend, if you can make it to one of the conferences, head on over to the NSTA website. You'll see a link for the conferences and you can learn more about attending.
We'll hope to see you there. Speaking of making connections, of course, the conference is a great time to connect with other science teachers, but what about bringing in industry professionals to your own science classroom? Our guest this week is going to talk a little bit about how that can happen.
Thanks, Brian. I am Sabari Raja. I am co-founder and CEO of Nepris. Nepris is a first-of-its-kind cloud-based platform that helps connect industry professionals virtually into classrooms. The primary purpose of making these connections is to bring real-world relevance to curriculum, and also in the process, bring career exposure to students. So we started Nepris 4 years back because we saw this big need and gap that teachers in the classroom really don't have the network of professionals to reach out to. Even when they do, it's very time-consuming. You don't really know how the skills of the professionals actually apply to classroom and curriculum needs. It's a monumental task to bring the right person into the right classroom at the right time. That's where we come in. Think of us like a matchmaker sitting in between teachers and industry professionals, giving teachers access to a wide database of industry professionals from all over the world and connecting them and managing the whole process, making it really, really simple for teachers to connect with industry.
It's interesting because it's interesting in the podcast world because Dale and I, obviously, we are looking to connect with professionals and in a sense, connect them with teachers as well. And what we found is that there are so many people, especially in the university setting, that are eager and even might be required to reach out for some kind of community outreach as well. So we know this in the science world. Is there any discipline which is the most eager to reach out to teachers? Are math professionals really like rearing to go? Or
yeah, so I'll answer that question in a different way because it's really hard to say who are the math professionals and science professionals, right? I mean, there are some obvious applications like in a healthcare industry, but you could be a computer science programmer working in the healthcare industry. So it really depends on the career and the job responsibilities, whether they are more related to science or math, right? But where we see the people who are most eager to reach into classrooms, like you said, universities have a K-12 outreach program, because if you look at, this is all about the pipeline management, right? How do kids in elementary, go into middle school, and from there, what kind of courses do they choose in high school? And then from high school, how do they end up in college and then career? So this is the whole pipeline. And where companies are really interested because this pipeline is leaking badly, and sometimes it's the problem is not in high school or even middle school, it's even in elementary school. So most of the companies or universities, the reason the universities are interested in reaching out into K-12 classrooms is because that's the pipeline that's directly coming to them, right? That's the next step out of high school. But the reason companies are interested in reaching out is because there are not enough skilled workers coming out of the pipeline qualified to take these STEM jobs, right? The numbers are really disturbing. Like you have 4 million kids in 9th grade. By the time they come out of the pipeline qualified to take STEM jobs, you have less than 170,000 qualified candidates. So this is the reason why companies are interested in reaching out and why companies have sort of this community outreach and education outreach and engagement, because they hope to really contribute early on in a child's school life. Early on, they can contribute and sort of help bridge this gap and bring down stereotypes by actually connecting them with their employees. So if you look at, there is a list, I think, published by STEM Connector called the STEM 100 companies. Mm-hmm. It's across all industries, but it's the companies that actually are affected by the skills gap, that they don't have enough people coming out to take their jobs. They are the ones that are setting these goals and saying, we want our employees engaged in the classroom.
Where does the name Nepris come from? Total curiosity question.
Yeah. So when we first founded the company, we wanted a name that where we can build a brand around it. We didn't want it to be Ed this and Ed that. Nothing against edX and EdY companies, right?
but we know what you mean.
Yeah. So, of course, then we turned to Greek and Latin and everything else. And surprisingly, what we found was every Greek god was already an education company, right? So,
wow.
Even Mars? Or not Mars?
Maybe. I'm sure there's Mars Learning or something. I don't know. At least in some other country, if not in the United States. But anyway, but we did find one Greek god, Nepris, who was still available. So,
he talked to his agent and worked out a deal.
Yeah. So Nepris in Greek mythology means sustenance, your basic need. And we've thought that really aligned well with what we are trying to do. Is it should be a basic need to connect curriculum to the real world.
Sure.
So that's how we ended up with the name Nepris.
Now, what does that connection look like? Like, can you share a success story or kind of give us an idea of once the connection is made, what does it look like from the classroom perspective?
Yeah, so just let me give you some context before answering that question. Today, in the platform, we have around 23,000 industry professionals and 34,000 teachers, right? So of course, we started off, when we started, there was hardly anyone in the platform. The idea is to sort of build this database so that any sort of connection can be made. But the most popular way that teachers connect is, in a project-based learning classroom, or where there is a STEM focus, the teachers can say, I'm in my 2nd grade classroom and I'm teaching rocks in my earth science unit, right? Traditionally, rocks are rocks. You may even bring some samples into the classroom, let the kids touch and feel and experience it. But we want to take this experience to the next level, right? So a teacher can go into Nepris and say, I'm teaching rocks and I would love for my students to have a conversation with a geologist, right? So now you're learning about rocks, you're seeing rocks even, and now you can say, if I learn about this, I could actually become a geologist in the future. That's the kind of connection we're trying to make. So when a teacher submits a request, traditionally the teacher probably doesn't have a network of geologists to reach out to. That's where we come in. When they submit a request, we act like the match.com. So we match the teacher's request to the skills of professionals that are out there, geologists, other people who actually, use this knowledge in their job. And then we send out multiple requests to various people across the country, even across the world. And then we manage that whole process of discovering, reaching out, and finding someone to accept that teacher's request. So we also have a partnership with LinkedIn. We work with LinkedIn for Good. So not only is the search process using the 20 plus thousand professionals in the Nepris platform, it goes to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn actually puts it in front of even hundreds or even thousands of people. So we are sort of scouring the world for a geologist to connect with this classroom. And when somebody comes in and accepts this request, then a virtual chat room is set up. And on the day of the request, everybody just clicks on that join live chat button, and the professional geologist is now live in this classroom. And this can be one classroom connecting with one professional, or multiple classrooms. Maybe there are 5 second grade classrooms in a school, and one teacher put in the request, and every classroom from their respective classrooms can click on the same button and connect with the geologist. So this is one example where the teacher is actually putting in a request that's matched to the curriculum, and we connect the right professional and enable this conversation. And during this conversation, we're doing a lot of things behind the scenes to make this a productive conversation, right? We're giving the professionals, samples and best practices and framework of how to really engage with the elementary classroom and so on.
Oh, and yeah, that's definitely important, because we definitely see sometimes where some professionals don't always know how to connect with those students, and there's some that you're like, why aren't you a teacher?
Sure.
So
how frequently are these connections taking place on a yearly basis?
It depends on the school district and what their accountability is and how much emphasis they give to these industry connections. Okay. So some of the scenarios where we see most success is from the district level. There is like a clear strategic plan that integrates industry connections into the curriculum, right?
Okay. Yeah, well, like we have a career and life skills component, and that might be an avenue within our district.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other thing is the 3 areas where we see most usage are at the elementary level. It's many classrooms that are actually doing project-based learning, right? It is in a project-based learning unit, you're supposed to give authentic learning experiences. And this is a great way to bring that authentic learning into the classroom, right? So PBL, there's a lot of really great alignment with PBL classrooms. And then as you move up the grade levels, in middle and high schools, we really have great alignment with career and technical education classrooms, because you're teaching certain pathways like health science pathways or forensics. So these are all different pathways depending on the school district. Certain pathways are more important in certain regions depending on the economic development of the region. So these pathway courses in CTE, this is our biggest user base, right? There is so much alignment with CTE. We do see a lot of CTE classrooms in the middle and high school levels using the program.
Okay. So now, after a request has been made, what's usually the turnaround to connect with a professional?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, because this is what I always remind people. Even though this is a technology platform, there are human beings behind the scenes who have to make time, right? So, so if you put in a request today saying, hey, I want a professional tomorrow, right? Highly, right? Depending on, because no matter how eager the professional is, they still have to have time to schedule it in their calendar, think about how they want to prepare for it and so on. Our team actually usually does a mock session with them. Our team also offers to do technology support. Like you both are in technology coaches, so you understand not every teacher is eager to jump into a technology platform, right? So
we have a lot of hand holding.
yeah, a lot of hand holding. So we offer a lot of virtual support to make sure we do mock sessions with both the teacher and the professional, make sure everybody has everything lined up. We don't want any surprises on the day of. So in order to actually have a productive session, we require at least 3 weeks notice.
Okay.
Right. So that we can go through all these steps and make sure it's going to actually be a meaningful and productive conversation.
So can I connect with only one professional at a time, or Do I get to schedule 2 or 3 dates at once, or?
No, you can do whatever you want, right? Like you can go in and put 10 session requests for 10 different topics, and each one is connecting to a different professional. Or we see many classrooms where it's not just bringing someone in to, bring relevance to a curriculum topic, which is the rocks example I gave you. But we see a lot of project mentoring sessions where you can connect with more than one professional. For example, there was this classroom that the project was that the kids are working on making soap. This is a chemistry classroom, right? So the kids are working on making soap, and I think this may even be an Avid classroom. So the request from the teacher was, the kids are working on this project. We would love to connect with a chemist. And in this case, the teacher wanted to connect with a woman chemist because the demographics of the classroom, she wanted to accomplish other goals as well. So we were able to make that connection with the PhD student who was in her lab. And she was able to talk through all the different topics that they were interested in, and in making soap and what kind of experiment she does. And she actually performed a live experiment in that classroom, right? So, but then that was followed by putting together a panel of experts that were giving feedback. They were looking at what projects the students were doing. The students were presenting their projects, and they were getting feedback from the professionals. So in this case, it was one classroom, and there were multiple professionals from different parts of the country that were all engaged in this conversation. And the professionals took some time to talk about their side of how, what's the role of chemistry in making these kind of usable products. And then the other time was spent in kids presenting their projects and getting live feedback. Am I on the right track? What else should I consider? So it's very sort of informal, and however the teacher wants to set it up, And the other scenario I wanted to give you is the reason it's not really a one classroom to one professional. It can be multiple classrooms to one professional. It can be many professionals on a virtual panel evaluating student projects. The other example I wanted to give you was sort of in a CTE classroom, right? Kids are actually, they have the capstone projects. So they work on their capstone projects, and they have to present to industry. So in this case, you can have, Frito-Lay, Samsung, AT&T on a panel, and the kids are basically lining up and presenting their projects, right? And this has been super helpful because whether it's in a science classroom or a math classroom or any CTE classroom, the importance of giving the students an opportunity to present to working professionals, it just gives them a whole set of new skills that they don't have a chance to practice, right? I mean, it's communication and presentation, and kids show up for these presentations all dressed up, which normally they don't even pay attention to. So all of these soft skills can also be worked into these project mentoring and project evaluation sessions. So we see a lot of different scenarios, and our job is not to tell you what to do or how to do it. Whenever the teacher says, okay, I want to bring someone for project mentoring, or I want 5 professionals to show up and review projects from 10 different groups of students, whatever your request is, we are kind of the platform that helps make that happen.
Now, when teachers sign up, do they need to do the subscription model also, or to get started?
No, there is a really good free version. You can sign up today. It literally takes less than a minute to sign up. As soon as you sign up, you will immediately have 100% access to the platform. Yes, there is a free version and a premium version. So the free version allows you to do, I think, 2 or 3 virtual sessions for free. But it gives you access to over 4,500 recorded videos. That's just invaluable content that's available for any classroom to use for free at this time.
Oh, I see now. One live industry chat, one live session The bronze, your starter plan. I see it.
Yeah, your starter plan. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you can expand.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they expand. That's for each educator, right?
Yeah. No, if an individual educator wants to upgrade to the premium plan or the platinum plan, I can't keep up with all these different name changes. So the platinum plan, usually we don't expect teachers to pay $149 out of their pocket. That's just too much for teachers to pay. Usually it's the school or the district is paying for teacher licenses. But most economical plan is to actually get a site license. Like an elementary site is $1,500 and a middle school and high school is $2,500, no matter how big the school is, which means that every teacher, counselor, librarian, everybody can have full access, unlimited number of virtual sessions to whatever you want in the platform for a very, very nominal cost.
And so the cost takes care of running the platform and running the staff and making those connections. But the industry people, are they volunteering or are they getting a...
They are... In this case, we are providing a skills-based volunteering platform for companies. I mean, we have other services and programs where companies can pay as well, but we had to be very careful not to put a price tag for the companies because for us, it's more important that we have their time more than their money at this point, right?
Okay.
So companies, it's not required for them to pay to participate because their time is more valuable. But what we encourage companies to do is adopt or sponsor a school district. So companies like Samsung have sponsored entire school districts for 3 years of usage. So that's a great way to help have companies actually pay for this, but without putting a price tag for them to participate, so.
Sure. No, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And the second thing we do which is just developing, we're constantly thinking about how can we take this burden of price off of the districts and place it in the hands of intermediaries or industry, right? So what we are doing now is we have introduced something called the white label platform of Nepris. So intermediaries in every region, like your Chamber of Commerce or your economic development or a nonprofit STEM hub, and there are many of these intermediaries in the region. They are well connected to the school districts. They have industry members, and they have education, building the workforce pipeline and education outreach as their strategic agenda, right? But these intermediaries are usually not set up to go build a technology platform.
Sure.
So we are now working with these intermediaries in many states where they actually are paying for the white label and they're able to sponsor the school districts, use industry sponsorship or industry dollars to sponsor the school district because they have all these relationships, right?
Yeah.
For example, we have New Braunfels area chamber that has white labeled the platform. They're inviting all of the industry members to participate, and they are finding sponsorship dollars for their school districts. We have many of these examples now, and this is the model that we hope to sort of develop and pursue as we move forward.
I see. Does it ever go the other way, where industry needs the expertise of educators?
So far, we really haven't pursued that. But this is not directly answering your question. The answer is no.
Yeah.
We haven't gone looking for it. I'm sure there is a need for focus groups and things like that, but we haven't gone looking for it. But where I also see another potential is industry doing teacher professional development. Right. So we've done a few of this where we've worked with education service centers or co-ops or regional service centers who are responsible for teacher professional development. And they've actually invited there's a group of gifted and talented GT teachers. For example, if they're teaching a unit on brain, how do you teach that unit. And now we have a neurosurgeon from New York connect with these teachers in Royce City, talking about how they can talk about the brain with students and what are some of the things in the real world that they have to consider, right? We don't do this methodically. We've just kind of been doing it as an experiment on an as-needed basis. I think there's real potential for industry to really impact teacher professional development. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, before we let you go, is there something that you want to leave our listeners with? A final thought, final push, plug, words of encouragement? What would you like to leave with them?
So my one thing I wanted to say was we started Nepris with the vision of leveling the playing field, right? Whether you're in a rural school district where there's not many industry around for you to reach out to, or you're in an urban district with many students on free and reduced lunch. These are students who don't have access within their communities or role models within their communities. And in urban school district, you may be surrounded by industry, but you still don't know how to reach out, right? So our focus has been, how do we level the playing field no matter where the school is or what the teacher is teaching? How can we give every teacher the same amount of access? And we've been very successful in doing that because over 55% of our total students reached are on free and reduced lunch, and a vast majority are from rural school districts. So I would really encourage every teacher to sign up and take a look. Even if they're afraid to take that first step of an actual live connection, there's plenty of recorded sessions that they can look at and see what other classrooms have done. Yeah. Our vision is really to make industry engagement part of your everyday classroom. It should not be something that you do once a year during STEM days and career days. So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been enlightening. And like I said, I'd like to... it's a challenge for me now to see how I can get this message out to teachers in my district in connecting with professionals, because I know that's something that is supported by our leadership in our district too. So, challenge accepted.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate you giving me the time.
You bet. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
If you'd like to learn more about today's episode, head on over to our website, laboutloud.com, for more information. You can also find details about all the previous episodes, and you can leave us feedback and comments. We want to hear from you.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure you've subscribed on iTunes, Google Play Music, or your favorite podcasting platform. And if you really enjoyed it, consider leaving us a rating or a review. Your feedback helps others find our show.
If you like Lab Out Loud and you love the show that we provide for you, please consider supporting the show at our Patreon page. Head on over to patreon.com/laboutloud for more information. Until next time, I'm Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartel.